There we go. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Cheezypop audiobook Nook. This is your home for some fun narrator and author chats, and it's going to be a place where you'll be able to get behind the scenes and behind the audiobook on books that I've recorded that you can actually get. And it's super neat to record audiobooks. It's an amazing industry to be in, and to actually get to talk with the authors of the books that I record is just a special treat. And look at you guys. I'm so happy that you guys showed up. Hi, everybody. So tonight we are going to be talking to Bob Purvy, who is the author of Inventing the Future. And this is a book that I recorded at the end of last year, and I really, really enjoyed it. I'm going to let him explain more of what the story is about, because I think you need to hear it from the actual author. But it was a true joy to work on, and I'm super excited to have him here tonight. So you know what we're going to do? We're going to get it going right away. And I'm so happy that there's a whole bunch of you here. This is exciting. So without further ado, I'm going to get Bob in here. Hello, Bob.
Hello, Maxwell. Good to be here.
I can't hear you.
Oh, get out of here. You really can't hear me?
We're doing great.
Oh, okay.
You know, a book about the computer, and you know.
Wait, you hear me now?
I can't, and we can't, oh, you know what the error was? It was literally on the error was on.
Can't hear me?
Okay, the error was on my end.
Oh, okay. I have there. I see myself on YouTube, so it looks like I'm way behind.
Oh yeah, the YouTube thing is way behind. It's like, yes. So we're all good. You know, when you do Zoom to YouTube, it's kind of a mess. And on my end, I have to keep track of is the live stream working? Is YouTube working? Are there comments coming in?
Yeah.
It's a lot to do. Did you ever think that when you were developing the computer?
Yes.
Did you ever think that when you were developing the home computer, like we'd be here one day? I mean,
well, that actually ties into one of the themes of the book, I guess, because everybody's heard about Apple and Steve Jobs visiting Park, and Xerox thought that the personal computer was going to be like an appliance. Well, not an appliance. It was going to be like office equipment. And they're copier salesmen who, after they sold you a Xerox copier, they would sell you a Star computer. And when people I know got Apple IIs, I think, and my thought was, why would you want a computer in your house? Jesus, what a stupid idea.
Right. So, okay, so for those people watching that haven't read or listened to the book or don't know you, can you just tell everyone just a little bit about you and the project that you worked on, and a little bit about the book?
Yeah, well, the book is called Inventing the Future. It's named after, or it comes from a quote by Alan Kay called "The best way to predict the future is to invent it." There's actually several other books called Inventing the Future. So yeah, and the author's name is a pen name, and I'll explain why I picked Albert Corey instead of Bob Purvy. But you're all welcome to call me Bob Purvy. Actually, when I was growing up, nobody ever said pervert. It was amazing. People used to say scurvy, but nobody ever. But my niece apparently did get a lot of that when she was in school. The teacher would read her name and all the kids would giggle, and she thought, oh, I can't wait to get married, get rid of this name.
So really, because of pervert is the reason that you used Albert Corey as
yeah, that plus if I decide to write some other genre like Victorian Gothic or young adult fiction or something, then I can pick some different pen name and
Victorian Gothic. All right, will you pick me? Will you pick me as the narrator if for that?
I don't know. Do you want to?
Sure, it'd be different.
Yeah. So Corey is Lisa's married name, and I asked if I could use that for my pen name, and she said, "Sure, we'll welcome you into the family." So
beautiful.
So Albert is my dad had a brother, Albert, and he got him a job during the Depression at Swift and Company in the Chicago stockyards. And Albert was killed on his very first day on the job. He either fell off a scaffold or the scaffold collapsed. I'm not sure which, but so I never got to meet Uncle Albert, but it's sort of in honor of him. So
tribute to Albert. Okay.
But you're welcome to call me Bob. That's fine.
Yes, Bob.
And so I joined the character. I wrote it as a novel. Well, for one thing, there's already nonfiction books about it. I've got one here, actually, Inventing the Future.
Okay.
Is excellent, and it's been done already.
Okay, because I was going to say this book is actually it's fiction, but based in a lot of fact.
It is, yeah, and there's a series of books by Patrick O'Brien. There's a movie called Master and Commander that was based on some of them with Russell Crowe, and that it's set in the Napoleonic Wars, and the characters are fictional, but all the facts he tells you about life on a British warship and what it was like to capture a captive on the sea, and way more sailing details than I can ever absorb because I don't understand sailing at all. But so that was kind of my inspiration, that to describe what it was like to be part of this rather than what happened.
Right.
In the histories, they'll concentrate on the important people like Alan Kay and Steve Jobs and Bob Metcalf, and yet there was 250 people working on Star, and chances are, if you get a chance to do something like this one day, you're not going to be the subject of a history book,
right?
But you're going to be someone like me who's toiling in the trenches, but
a very important person in what the revolution that happened. And so, okay, for those people that don't know what you're talking about, what Star is, can you just tell everyone briefly, like,
sure.
Star?
Sure. So it started actually, well, I'll start with when I first heard of it. In 1975, there was a Business Week article about the Office of the Future by George Pake, I think, who was the head of Xerox PARC. And it was about this miraculous concept that someday you'd have a computer on your desk. And but holy cow, that's crazy. I want to be part of that. So sometime after that, there was an ad in the Sunday LA Times advertising for programmers, and I answered it. And by and by, I got hired. So there's a Xerox building which you actually went to. I know it's in El Segundo, and I was down in LA, and Xerox had been in the computer business, the big computer business. It was called Xerox Data Systems, and it was a big failure. They eventually sold it off to Honeywell, but they had all these buildings down there, these big factories with unionized workers, and most of whom were laid off. And they were going to use that to build the Office of the Future. And Xerox PARC, which everybody's heard about, was the brains of the outfit, as it were. So they had this miraculous technology that everyone's heard of now, and we're using it as we speak.
We are.
And the thought of Xerox was, well, first of all, Xerox was losing business in copiers because the patents had expired, and the government had forced them to share the patents with Japanese competitors. So they thought that the computer would be the way to maintain dominance in the office market.
Wow.
And the Xerox Star was just, it wasn't even called that at first. It was called the display word processor. I covered that in the book, and there was no spec for it at all. And a lot of the book is about what's it like to be told that you're going to build the office of the future. And well, what is that? Oh, well, we don't know. You're going to tell us that. So,
yeah.
So go ahead.
I mean, to for us and for the viewers watching here, I mean, it's like tough to wrap your brain around a time when the computer was not in the home. And so for you at that time, you hear, I have to create the office of the future. How in your brains did you take like, okay, this is what an office is. I need to incorporate things like folders and these little, icons, and is that what you did? And the trash cans and
yeah. So you can't see the cover very well, but the guy using Mazewar here is the son of Dave Smith, who's the guy who invented icons. His name's Jeffrey Smith. And I met him up in well, there's a whole story about him and Mazewar, which we could maybe get into, or maybe now if you want. So there was a lot of talk about it, and a lot of the book is about what it's like to see all that stuff. And it wasn't my job to think of all this stuff. There was hundreds of people with PhDs and heavy research credentials who were producing thought pieces and prototype software on how to do this. And it was exciting, and it was also scary too, because you thought, well, is Xerox going to be able to sell this thing when we do it? Because they had 4,000 copier salesmen. And in those days, a copier salesman would have a meter on your copier, and he'd come in once a month and read the meter and bill you for how many copies you made. And so they'd look at the Alto computer, which I have a picture of here, and think, well, how do I meter this thing? And you
meter this thing. This is wild.
So that was how they thought, and the rest of us were building this, assuming that eventually they'd figure it out. And we didn't really have much I actually never went to Rochester, where Xerox was, or Stanford. I knew people that did, but I didn't go. So we're building this, and of course there was disagreements about how to do it. You have a lot of really smart people in Palo Alto, especially, and they have their own opinions.
Right.
And
because the book takes place you were in El Segundo at Xerox at the time, and then you had the other office in Palo Alto.
Right. Most people that hear about this think Xerox PARC is one word, that it was all Palo Alto, and they never even heard of El Segundo. And now you've actually been there.
I got it. There I am at if I could get
that's not it.
That's me at the
A&E building.
Yeah, there you go.
Administrative and engineering. So the building is still there. It's been Xerox has moved out,
yes.
And it's been renovated. So somebody else is in there now. I don't know who.
Yeah, after I narrated the book, I had to go check out the place that I had talked about so much.
So let me ask you this, Matt. What did you think about it when you went there?
It's not much.
So I've driven by there, and TRW isn't there anymore, right across Rosecrans.
I mean, and it's an area that I'm in a lot. I'm, I go to Manhattan Beach a lot. I'm at the beach a lot. And so I'm in this area all the time. And it's just like, I had never even thought that, when I did the audition, I remembered telling you after you hired me, I was like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. Because in the audition, I talked about there were specific streets that were mentioned, and I was like, I drive on these streets all the time that you mentioned in here. I had no idea. Like the computer revolution took place right here,
Yeah.
right here in that building. It's
Well,
unbelievable.
some of it did, yeah. A lot of it was up here in Palo Alto. Well, I'm in Silicon Valley now.
Right.
So Park is still there, but it's not called Xerox Park anymore. It's just Park, and I think it's co-owned by some corporations, including Xerox, but not just Xerox.
Okay. You know what? This is so wild. We have in the chat here, Leilani here in the chat said, I have so many feels about this because my dad has almost 20 years of history at Xerox.
Oh wow. I don't think I know a Leilani. Hi Leilani.
Leilani, this is crazy, really? Wow. That's pretty amazing. She said she literally grew up going to that building.
Really? I'm going to bring up YouTube now so I can see the comment. You went to that building. Wow.
That's really amazing. Leilani, we got to hear about this. Okay, so is there anyone in the chat that has actually listened to or read the book? Let me know in the chat. And see, Leilani said my dad was a computer engineer at Xerox El Segundo in the 80s through the 90s. Yeah. Wow. You see that on your screen?
Yeah, I do see it. Yeah. Well, I know we're probably like several minutes behind here. So, but anyway, welcome, Leilani. So we moved actually to, it was called Continental Park. It was down Rosecrans, closer to Sepulveda. Mm-hmm. So in the 80s, I know there were still Xerox people there, but I don't know what your dad did or who was still in there.
That's amazing. This is so cool. We actually have a connection in the chat. I love that. That's neat.
I see it. I see a few people there. Let's see. So do you want? I can ramble on indefinitely, but.
Oh, I mean, well, I think it would be, I guess, I don't know, from my end, this is obviously, a book this is a story I knew nothing about, and getting to like dive in and really like learn about the creation of something that we all use every single day was so fascinating for me. Now it's, so this is fiction, but so all the characters are made up.
Yeah, let me talk about that.
Yeah.
So like I said, I wanted to write about the subjective experience of being part of it, which is what you don't usually get in histories like this. Right. Some of the better ones try to, and some of them actually are very good. I admire them. But it's in fiction. So in fiction, one of the characters is me, and I say that in the preface, Dan Marcunis, that everything that happens to Dan happened to me. The other two are sort of composite characters of people I knew, and there's a few real people who are named, but they never have any lines. So you didn't have to imitate Bob Metcalf or Steve Jobs.
Right.
I mentioned Steve Jobs. He doesn't appear as a character. Actually, I never met him. But when everybody's heard the story that he came to Park and stole everything and produced Apple, and it's not really true. And I'll be watching the comments here to hear what people say about that.
So the story goes that the story that people hear is that Steve Jobs came to Park, where you were, and stole the whole idea.
Yeah. Okay. So not exactly. His lieutenants like Bill Atkinson and Andy Hertzfeld had heard about the graphical user interface, because it wasn't really a secret, that they'd been giving demos all through the 70s to anybody that interviewed there. Mm-hmm. And they said to Steve, you got to see this stuff. And some of this you can see him being interviewed before he died, where he said, everybody said, Steve, you got to see this. And I thought, okay, fine. So he went there, and I didn't even hear about it until months later. And I've asked some of my friends, and they didn't hear about it either. There were some that heard about it on the day. so I'm not going to talk about that meeting because I wasn't there. And also a podcast host told me that he's talked to 3 people who were there, and they all had different stories about what happened. So he let's see, where shall I start? So he says in his interview, he saw 3 things. He saw the local area network, Ethernet, that has a big part in my book.
Okay.
He thought, yeah, fine, whatever, networking, who cares? And he saw Smalltalk, object-oriented programming. He thought, oh yeah, fine, fine. And then he saw the graphical user interface, and his eyes just popped out. And he said, why isn't Xerox doing something with this? Well, the fact is, we were doing something with it, but he didn't see that. He saw the prototypes that we'd had since the mid-70s.
Wow.
So that's because the Star wasn't anywhere close to being demoable then.
Right.
It was, in fact, you could argue that it wasn't demoable even when it was demoed, but it was. So he went back, and this is where I've heard things that aren't in the public domain, that he still wasn't really convinced that Lisa was a good idea. And Lisa was what preceded the Mac. So
Lisa preceded the Mac.
Yeah. Lisa came out, it sold for $10,000, and it was kind of a failure.
$10,000 for a computer.
Yeah, in 1980. So obviously it wasn't for home use. And so he was excluded from the Lisa development, and he started a competing group, the Macintosh, which was they call it the pirate flag, and they stole some technology, and the Mac was going to be more like 2,500, which is what it sold for, and wow. The Mac is what I'm talking to you about today.
Yeah.
So the part that you don't hear much is at the National Computer Conference in 1981, May of 81, where I was there. So I guess I saw Steve Jobs, but they didn't know what he looked like. So he came to all the demos. We had a demo every hour, and people were lining up 10 minutes before the hour to see it. It was really like a high point in my career, actually. It was so exciting after all that, because no one had ever seen anything like this. And Steve was coming to every demo and
wow,
dragged his lieutenants. And according to Dave Liddell, who was our chief at the time, Steve then finally became convinced that this was a real thing, that we'd actually made a product out of it. And he thought, well, we can do better. And well, he was right. They did do better. So
you guys did it first.
So. We did it first, yeah. And we did it for way too much money. And
but that part of the book where you're demoing it at the convention, I could feel it, and I could, sense your excitement, because it's all in the writing there. And for me, it was really exciting to read that part of it, because I know how much that meant to you, and the build up to that point was really sweet. Yeah.
Well, thank you. One of the chapters before that, we call it Saturdays at Xerox, and they actually had mandatory Saturday hours where you had to go, because you couldn't work at home in those days. I mean, you had to come into work to work on the computer. And on Saturday you had to come in, and they brought in lunch. And the part that impressed me, maybe you shouldn't have, is they had beer with the sandwiches.
Yeah.
because Xerox, go ahead.
You guys are creating the computer and drinking on the job too. This is a good office. Okay.
So the Xerox had supposedly a corporate rule that having alcohol in the building was a firing offense. So it took a lot of balls for them to bring in beer for us, but they did.
Hey, for what you guys were working on, you needed something. I mean,
so we worked on Saturdays, and then we flew to Chicago, and it was at McCormick Place in May of 81. And I was there, and I'm glad you said that the excitement came through, because I tried to feel to bring it across. The other incident, actually, I wasn't there, but I had to reconstruct it, was the lightning strike.
Oh, right, that chapter. Yeah, that was a
Yeah,
wild chapter. That was actually my audition chapter,
it
which
was.
was.
I wanted to hear how you did that.
I know it was
so,
interesting that you picked a crucial chapter of the book for the audition, and which was, I think, really smart. I mean,
uh, thanks. So there that really happened, and amazingly, I didn't remember it at all, but everybody talked about it, and I managed to talk to enough people to reconstruct what happened. So on January 5th, 1978, there was a lightning storm in Palo Alto, and it knocked out the Ethernet between Park and SDD, which was the group that I worked in, Systems Development Division or Department. I forget which one it
right.
is. And of course, the Ethernet ran underneath the road. So you ask, how could they do that? Wasn't that illegal? But they did it. And the question was, how did lightning knock it down when it's not up in the air anyways? So I'm not going to spoil that chapter. Well, you'll have to read that chapter. But
Lightning strikes.
lightning strikes. Yeah, and the guy who did it, I never talk about who the real characters are, but that guy is dead. So say it's pretty obviously Ron Crane. That everybody who was at Xerox knows that. And I talked to his. So Ron figured out why the lightning brought down the Ethernet, and you'll have to, it's like I say, you'll have to read the book to find out. But I talked to his widow actually. So Ron died in 2002, I think, and his widow said it's like the nicest thing anybody said to me about my book. She said, I read that and I thought about Ron more than I have ever since he died.
Oh,
So I guess I knew Ron pretty well actually after Xerox at 3Com.
wow.
So I guess at least for her, I captured him.
That's a really no. See, that's really special. And I'm sure that you must have heard from a lot of people after writing this. You know, especially among your circle. Must be really exciting for you. I mean, really, because this is a story that I feel like people need to hear. I mean, everyone knows like Steve Jobs, but people don't realize what was going on before that.
They don't. Yeah. What I had I'm not sure I call this a marketing strategy. It's more like marketing naivety. But for about 4 months before the book was published, I was sending out free review copies to pretty much everybody I knew from Xerox. I had like 135 names on there. And a lot of the people had corrections, which I incorporated. So if you read this, you can be pretty sure that any facts you read are correct.
Yes.
If I got it wrong, somebody corrected me. So
I put the link, guys, right there. I saw some people asking where you can get it.
Yeah, I put that in the comments too.
Yeah, there's the link to the audiobook right there. Who said they've listened to it? Tiffany, you listened to it. That's awesome. That's really great. So Tiffany's listened to it. We got in the chat, which is really neat.
Well, great.
Were there questions? I'm trying to look through the questions in here.
Yeah, I'm looking too.
How long did it take you to write the book? Patty asked.
Let me see. I think I don't see her question here. It took maybe a year and a half. It's hard to say, there's some writers who say, well, you got to get up at 6 a.m. and write for 6 hours a day and write it. And well, that's fine. That's bullshit. I mean, if that's what you want to do, that's fine. I have my dog, which I don't know if you can see him here. Ernie.
Oh, hello.
There's Ernie.
Hi, Ernie.
We walk in the mornings, and usually I write in the afternoons, and sometimes wait a minute.
Yeah.
A microphone.
Oh, you're good.
You still hear me?
Yeah.
So let's see, where was I going with that? So I had an editor who, I guess I forgot to invite her to this. I don't know if she would have come anyways, but so she gave me the encouragement. Actually, without her, I wouldn't have written this. But I had an outline, which the book kind of diverged from as I wrote it, but
of course,
we talked about the main characters, and one of the main characters, Janet Saunders, you may have noticed that's a girl, and I'm I'm not a girl.
Yeah.
Clever if you noticed that.
Yeah.
So, but Samantha, she's my editor, was kind of the guardian of Janet. So sometimes I'd write something and she'd say, well, Janet wouldn't say that. So
we need a woman's voice here. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I even swore that I wouldn't write a sex scene, but I sort of did. Not not a very explicit one, but
no, but it's there, you know.
It's in there. Yeah,
there's a lot. There's a little love story going on in the book, which I thought was good. I thought it was a good choice to include a little relationship drama amongst the computer drama. I mean, really.
Yeah, what's my second book, actually, which it continues. So if you wonder what happened to Janet after she exits this book, you'll find out.
I can't wait.
I went to 3Com in 1985, which was and sort of the birth of the internet, and Ethernet is covered in there. But it's not the main focal point. That eventually it becomes, hate to say a romantic comedy or rom-com, but that's sort of what it turns into. And I did it kind of because it was fun to write it that way. And
right.
I think people like it, but I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, you had to. I think it was good because you didn't want to just write a book about this is what happened. We need, if you want to get another set of eyes that are not just the computer people, something else going on. Like, even for me, like, I thought you included a bunch about baseball, that you had like characters chatting about baseball. I see you got your Cubs hat on tonight.
That's because I'm bald.
And like, I really connected with that. And I thought those little touches are great. The baseball stuff you talk about, like even the stuff when you're in the cafeteria, you're eating, even the food that you ate at.
That was kind of a theme, because Xerox, the buildings were, like I said, a relic of the 70s when there were these unionized factory workers there. And it was a cafeteria like my parents would have eaten at. It was the only special I could remember was ham and limas, but try and find that at any restaurant nowadays.
Ham and limas. What was that like?
I didn't eat that, so
What'd you eat?
Well, they always had hamburgers, and that was kind of the default choice, is to have a hamburger and fries. But Palo Alto, the park cafeteria, was much, much better.
Okay.
That they didn't call them wraps back then, but that's what they were. That they had a tortilla with wrapped around turkey and tomato and cheese. And
but see, I love this. Yeah, that's the stuff I really enjoyed as well, because it gave you some, oh look, they're actually just normal people. Like you're all geniuses.
Well, thank you. But you got to eat. You have to. Most of you have to get married. Some of them do, anyways.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted to do, was to write about what it's like to actually be there, not the Fortune magazine, high level summary. Because not that that's not great, but you've already seen that; it's already been done. So.
Yeah. I saw another question here. Disney Mama Naomi said, sorry. How long did it take? Wait, what made Max audition for this specific book? ACX.com is where authors post their books when they're looking for narrators for their audiobooks. And so I go on ACX a bunch and I search, see what's posted. I saw your book and I was really intrigued by it. I'm fascinated by the beginnings of anything. How does something so revolutionary begin? And so I was like, this sounds interesting, and it's not usually something that I do. Normal, like I haven't done. I don't even know what you call this genre, but
I invented a new genre for this.
Exactly, you invented the future here. The I think, you know, a lot of my books I do are young adult, middle grade, and so to do something that was a bit more adult, obviously, was just this was great for me. I was just fascinated by the topic, and then when I read the audition, I was like, oh my gosh, this is really cool. Like this piece of history happened right here, right here in you know LA. El Segundo is it's LA County. I mean, it's right here, and I don't know. I was like, I like this book. I hope I get this. So yeah, but that's why I auditioned.
From my point of view, I did ACX and also voices.com, which is another place that voice actors audition. You were on both. Actually, you're the only one that was on both.
Yeah, I auditioned for both. I on both sites. I was like, you know what? Let me just make sure he gets this. I like this.
I had a total of 25 people, and most of the part of the book that I picked to audition had all three of the main characters. It had Dan, which is me, and Grant and Janet, who are kind of fictional. And there's not too many scenes where all three of them are in there talking. And what I really wanted to hear was if you're doing Janet or Grant, do they sound different? And
right,
what do they sound like? And that's something I looked for myself at narrating it. I realized, God, there's more to this than I thought.
It's a tough job.
not that easy. So that actually the other guy that number two was a soap opera actor in the 70s.
Whoa.
he was quite good, actually. I have a net, but he wasn't as good as you. So
hey, thanks. I appreciate it. It was a joy to work on, really. So but yeah, it was but that audition scene was the three characters. It's I guess, you know, it would be really important for you to hear, oh, how do I differentiate those voices? Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what an audiobook narrator does that's special, especially because you can't be all the different ages and genders and everything that are in the book. But
yeah, it's like I'm looking at it here. I've got that chapter here. I'm trying to see, like, is there a spot?
You can read that. You can read that if you want.
Yeah. I'm trying to see if there's a spot where because let's see, Grant is here. He glanced at Janet, smiled briefly, and motioned to the guest chair. Okay, yeah, this would be a good spot here. I'm trying to think of what the best spot is. Is this Grant and Janet are talking here? So it'd be like, how much on page 125? How much of the network is down? The answer is to make him even more worried. I'm trying to see who's talking there. I'm like, oh gosh. You guys don't mind if I read a little something of this, right?
Definitely do.
I'm trying to see where do you come in? Where's Dan?
Dan's not in this one.
He's really not in this chapter.
You read the part that you read was much later in the book, where all three characters are in it. I don't know if you want to do that one or the lightning strikes one. It's up to you.
I'm just trying to give people an example of like what this all sounds like. So, okay, here's like a good example. This is Janet and Grant on 125. Okay. I'll let you get back to it. Keep me posted. He was on the phone. He hung up and turned to Janet. The entire Ethernet is down. Excuse me, but I need to work this out. He started for the door, then paused. On the other hand, do you want to help out? Grant strode briskly toward Michael's office with Janet trying to keep up. What happened? Janet asked. She had no idea whether this was a normal occurrence or not, but she knew bad things always happen at the worst possible time. It's life as an engineer. Naturally, if Peter McCullough is coming out, everything will fall to pieces. No idea yet. They're looking into it. So, I mean, this is a good example of you got two characters. a guy and a girl here. And I think people always ask me, how do you do a female voice? And that's all I do for most of the books. I just put the female character up here.
I love that, actually.
Yeah, I just put it up here. Usually it just differentiates. And then you can go right back into this character. And I gave Grant more of this voice, whereas I gave your character a little bit of, it was mostly my voice. But then, after talking to you, I realized, I think we actually do sound a little alike.
It's funny. You would think, one would think that having somebody imitate you would give you a lot of anxiety or something, but it really didn't. I thought, okay, that's me. All right.
Yeah, no, I'm glad I'm glad you said that. I mean, it's because normally I'm not playing the author. So yeah, so it was interesting because, like, I'm trying to find here at the beginning. I'm sure your character talks. How's the weather? Okay, someone says, it says here you're transferring from Xerox to Dallas. How's the weather there? Is that you here?
That's Grant.
That's Grant. Okay, right. Where's you?
If I didn't put myself in my own book.
Dan.
I'm not sure your page numbers are the same as mine, but on the trip to Palo Alto, that's chapter 6. Do you have that there?
Oh yeah.
So for the audience here, what this is about is we were my fictional character Dan and Dan and Janet were down in El Segundo, and it was kind of, it wasn't that inspiring. All the excitement was in Palo Alto. So on this chapter, we're coming up there for the first time, and I'll let you take it from there.
Let's see. And this is a good example here. Like maybe page, what do we have? 37 at the bottom. They're just talking about lunch, aren't they?
Your page numbers aren't the same as mine. Can you read some of it?
Hi, welcome. I'm Grant Avery. How was your flight?
Yeah.
Dan answered, short and uneventful, just the way I like them. Did you have any trouble finding the place? Janet said, no, the directions were pretty simple. It's so nice around here. So different from LA. Yeah, I haven't gotten tired of it yet. All this land belongs to Stanford, which is why you see the horses grazing. Did you see Park as you came in? Yeah, we saw the sign. It looks like a big thing. We'll have lunch at Park. Shall we go to your first meeting? I'm afraid you have a full day ahead of you. There's a whole lot of technology, and we're going to throw a bunch of it at you. We'll stop by the restrooms and kitchen first. Yeah, I mean, and that's a good little example because you got 3 characters in there.
Yeah.
And then there were also parts of this book where I had to really I just had to have you speak it out for me because there were all of these codes. Like, I don't know if you guys can see this. Oh yeah, you can. Can you see the codes on your screen there? Yeah. So.
Oh yeah.
And I had no idea how to say all of this stuff.
It's not there it is.
Yeah.
So I actually, on that one, I have a couple of advisors who actually one of them is somewhat famous, Paul McJones. He's on the pilot paper, and they sort of told me how you should pronounce that. So it's not literally reading the text. It's sort of saying, well, IT is a type, and it consists of, and you did.
Yeah, and I had to learn that. It was like IT is a type that consists of, but what it says is IT : type equals ... and so there's an actual language to all of this. Woo!
Yeah, fortunately for the listeners here, there's not very much code in this. There's a little bit.
No, there's not. Don't worry. It's only a few times that it happens. But I had to. You should have seen me trying to read that stuff, because I would just be like, okay, because you wrote out. There was like a thing where you wrote out stuff, but then I was like, I just need I just need to hear it.
I think I would rather have somebody who can do voices that has to learn how to read code than vice versa, because people who can read code generally aren't going to be very good at narrating books.
Oh gosh.
Let's see. I have some questions here on YouTube.
Yeah, let's get to those questions before we get out of here. There's some good stuff. Lidlani said, "What do you think of?" You see that one? What do you think of that the rest of us couldn't even fathom when computers and technology have played such a crucial role in communication the past couple of years?
Oh, there it is. What do you think of? Yeah, it's, to be honest, there's a guy, I had some BBC interviews on the radio, and they asked me, and these are mostly like people who are like 30 years old, and they've never lived without computers, and a lot of them think it's not that great. And he asked me what I thought of what computers have turned into, and I think, well, I don't think it's really a good thing that 12-year-old girls are obsessed with how they look on Instagram, and it's
right. There's the dangers of it. Yeah,
they're walking around staring at their phone and not even looking where they're walking, and I hate that as much as you do.
Right.
It's, in fact, I don't think it would be a bad idea to say you can't have a smartphone until you're 18. Just like
18.
Just like you can't buy alcohol or tobacco until you're 18. That,
woo, boy.
this will never happen, so you don't have to worry about it.
Did you ever think that it would get to where we would have our computer this size? Like back then, did you think about that ever?
Never. Was, so Alan Kay, the guy where I got the quote for Inventing the Future, he called it the Dynabook. And that was more like a laptop. So that was revolutionary at the time, that he had this Dynabook and you'd be able to carry it around and have all your thoughts and documents on it. And we all thought, wow, that's that's incredible. So yeah, the idea of having it on a phone, that was not even in the radar. If there weren't even any, I guess if I say there were no cell phones, somebody will correct me but nobody I knew had a cell phone. So
right,
it wasn't happening.
Right. Wow. So you weren't even thinking about that. That's yeah.
Really. What else we got here?
Let's see. Miniature Missy, what are some concerns you have about the direction tech is headed? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we covered that.
We got that.
Tech romance.
Oh yeah.
I knew some people who married their colleagues at Xerox or my job before that, and it's, well, shock, it really happens. There are normal people and fall in love and get married. So
yeah.
So the only time you read about that nowadays is when it becomes a scandal, but yeah, it wasn't a scandal back then.
Right. So yes, there you go.
What else?
Oh yeah, because look at that, Michaela's, you got third graders with smartphones, unbelievable. Yeah. Leilani said he remembers her dad being amazed with Palm Pilots, right? Palm Pilots.
Yeah, actually, my second book ends around 1989, and Palm Pilot hadn't even been invented yet by then. I've actually looked into that, and I have a friend who can introduce me to Donna Dubinsky, who was one of the two founders of Pilot, and I was thinking of making that one of the themes in the third book, but I haven't gotten very far with it. So yeah, the Pilot was pretty cool, but it wasn't until the mid 90s that you could even get one of those.
Yeah, I remember those. Wow.
They're pretty nice, actually, for their time.
Yeah, it actually was pretty cool. So the second book, you've written it?
It's all done. Yeah, I'm sort of holding up. I don't have a cover for it yet. The guy who did this cover, Jonathan Sainsbury, I've sent him the book. I'm pretty sure he hasn't read it because he hasn't asked me anything.
Wow.
So
Awesome.
it occurred to me that possibly some legitimate publisher would want it, but nowadays they don't publish that much fiction. And
Right.
this one, newsflash, isn't really burning up the bestseller list. So
So we need you guys to go get it. And if you do have it, go write a review, because those always really help. Like like if you look at the on Audible, I don't think there's any reviews of it yet. So if you did get it on Audible, write a review, so that it can actually get in their system and get some reviews up there. I guess that's Tiffany. Tiffany, you go write a review.
Go write a review, Tiffany.
Yes, and if you do want to get it, there's the link again right there. I just posted it in the chat.
I put it in the chat as well, but I'll put it in again.
Awesome.
Good. So I'll add it in here again.
Awesome. Yeah, Tiffany's gonna write a little review, which is great.
Okay. The shift. So Miniature Missy says the shift happened in such a short period of time. Well, not really, actually. So this goes up to 1981, and this book, and the second book goes up to 1989. And in that one, it still wasn't even clear that internet would be much of a thing.
Wow.
Internet was still mainly, it hadn't been approved yet for commercial use, believe it or not. I mean, nowadays that's all it is commercial, but back then it was for research, and companies that did business with the Defense Department, Lockheed or people like that, they would have the internet, and it kind of spread out slowly from there. But even in 1989, there was almost no internet at all. There were bulletin boards like CompuServe and Prodigy, people like that.
Wow.
But
Prodigy.
Yeah, Prodigy, which was partly owned by Sears, which doesn't even exist anymore.
Oh, I remember Prodigy.
Yeah, it wasn't bad, for its time. But.
Yeah.
So it didn't really happen that fast. I mean, the internet, around about 95 or so, the Mosaic, which was the first browser, I guess. Well, you could argue about what was first, but it was the first popular one. That came out about 95. So it took quite a while for internet to catch on.
And then I guess when it did, though, because I guess that's right, it didn't, because in the 90s I remember it, and it was a thing, but it wasn't like it wasn't until, man, I mean, the last decade's been insane. Just absolutely insane, obviously. But
I can remember that I was at Oracle in the 90s, and somebody said, sort of incredulously, and this guy had his email address on his business card. Oh, wow. That's pretty radical.
And see, this is so fascinating to me, because you in that industry, you guys were all still like, oh my gosh, I can't believe he's putting his email address. So no one, I guess it's kind of amazing to think like, well, you guys didn't even know where it was all headed.
There's no, and I sort of expect that when people read the second book, they'll say, well, I really wanted more about the history of the internet. And I think, well, there's a mailing list called Internet-History, I think, where they talk about this. And there was a few guys who were building it, and it was even called Internet back then in early 80s. And they reminisce about it. Most of them are, in their 70s now. But and for me, we would occasionally see it, and that's in the second book. And we would have a guy from there was a company called the Wollongong Group. Wollongong is a city in Australia, and they had almost all the internet experts at the time. And amazingly, they went out of business. You'd think you'd be able to commercialize that, wouldn't you?
Right? Yeah. No.
So it was happening, but we didn't pay that much attention to it. That customers didn't really at the time. That, by the way, this isn't really about my book. So if people want to stick to
it's fun. No, we like it. It's good.
It's fun, and the new book will be coming along pretty soon. I should mention it. It's more of a romantic comedy than this book is. This book, there is romance, but I wanted to tell the story of the Xerox star. But in the second book, I sort of had a lot of fun writing it, and it kind of devolves into romantic comedy. So, but there's still the internet happening and Ethernet and
awesome. So that's great. This is I love it. I can't wait. That's awesome.
So let's see. Actually, I don't have an idea for a cover yet. Maybe you'll have some ideas.
All right. Yeah, we'll chat. We'll chat about that.
We will.
Yeah, that's good.
What else do we have from the audience?
Any other questions before we get going? I guess. Why did it move to personal use? Who decided it?
Yeah, well, Xerox didn't. At the time, we thought that. Yeah, somebody mentioned the working computers at Bletchley Park, but World War II, the computer filled up an entire room, and basically almost always one of the vacuum tubes would be down, so you could never assume that the machine was up. But transistors came along in the late 40s. Where was I going with that? So at Xerox, we thought the idea of personal home computers was kind of a joke, actually. That it was. This is in the book, actually, that Janet's father. By the way, Max, Janet's father, Len, was my favorite character in the book, and I had thought briefly of voicing him myself, but I thought, well, that would probably make things complicated for you, and it maybe wasn't a good idea. So,
well, thank you. That's a fun character to do. It's just, you're a good guy.
I actually wrote him in the end, and I thought, I like this guy so much, I'm going to put him in again. So I went back to the beginning and added him in an earlier chapter because I just like he's more like me, obviously.
He's a good guy. Yeah.
Anyhow, Len asks his daughter Janet, so these Apple IIs, are they good for anything? And Janet says, "Oh, I don't know. I think I've heard of them, but." So there were people at big corporations who would bring in their home computers, their Apples, to work because they used VisiCalc, which was the first spreadsheet to be popular. And VisiCalc was amazing at the time. The stuff that you would spend all afternoon doing on a calculator, it would just do in seconds. And he's asking his daughter, so will your computer do that? And it's kind of, if you ask why did the star not succeed, it's well, it didn't have a spreadsheet for one thing. That's kind of embarrassing to say that, but yeah, we knew there were spreadsheets, and somebody did a prototype of it, I think. And there's actually one guy who's listed both in the acknowledgements and in the people who died, because I emailed with him and then he died, Bob Ayers. And I thought I remembered him doing a spreadsheet prototype, but I wrote to him and he didn't remember that, which doesn't mean that it didn't happen. There's a lot of people can't remember things.
It's kind of hard to believe. Like, can you believe how long ago it was now? Like, where did the time go? I mean, whew.
Yeah. Well, a lot of the people are still around, fortunately, and I'm
good
in touch with most of them. So a lot of people have died, unfortunately. Steve Jobs, of course, and Larry Tesler, who I'm trying to think whether I ever knew Larry Tesler or not, but he's the guy who invented the copy paste paradigm.
Wow.
I think I met him once or twice, but so he went to Apple, like Ellen Kay did, and like a lot of people did. And
right. I mean, it's amazing to think like, oh, someone had to actually like invent that. We don't think about this stuff, but like there were actual people who literally changed everything. It's pretty amazing.
So the guy on the cover, Jeffrey Smith. Okay, do we have time to tell the story of?
Yeah, and then we'll close with this. Yeah,
we'll close it out. So May's War. Actually, should I bring that up on the? We haven't done a screen share yet. Do you want to?
Oh yeah, you have a screen.
I have a screen with May's War. Let's see if I can. Where is it now?
That's us.
Oh wait, here we go. No. No, that's you. Chrome. Oh, I know it's not working.
Oh, it's up on one of those tabs.
I got it.
There it is.
There it is. And let me scroll up to Maze War. Bring up this picture and slideshow. You all see that?
There you go.
So this is an alto. We had to kind of dummy up a rack for the alto discs on the left. It's not the real rack we use, but nobody has those anymore. So those discs held about 2 megabytes. as opposed to your phone, which has probably 32 gigabytes. So that's 32,000 times roughly more than those hold. Well, did I do the math right? Anyhow, so that's the alto, and that's what we use to develop on. So this guy here is Jeffrey Smith, who is the son of Dave Smith, who's the guy who invented icons. And I used to see Dave every week. Actually, I took piano lessons from his wife.
Wow.
I would say, yeah, you invented icons. And he'd go, yeah, and did it make me rich? Hell no. So
should have.
It should have, but it didn't. So his son, in 1980, his wife, Janet, was pregnant with this guy. And he was about 2 weeks overdue, and they were worried when she was going to deliver. And they went to Xerox Park, and they were playing around with Maze War. And supposedly let me go to the next slide here. So that Maze War had a giant eyeball, which was someone else. So you were one of the eyeballs, and you would see the other players down the hallway. And then at the bottom, you'd see the entire maze, but only with you. So you didn't know where the other players were, and they would pop out and shoot at you, and you'd peek around the corner and shoot at them. And I actually didn't like it. I'm going to try and go back to the, well, so you use this thing. This is called a key set, and you can Google that, Google alto key set. And there's a guy in Seattle that has a couple altos, and they work. I don't know how to go backwards on this thing. Bring this up again. Show. Let's see. So on your the left hand, you toggle the key set real fast. I mean, it like made you twitchy, like you'd you'd get away from that, and you'd be like, and with the right hand, you fired. And Janet saw the. I'll bring this up here. She saw the eyeball, and it kind of gave her a rush of adrenaline, and then Jeffrey was born. So he's heard this story now for years as right. Family lore of how he was born, and he wanted to reenact it. So this is him using the alto and playing Maze War.
It's really cool. It's a great little story too. I mean,
I actually didn't know that myself, but anyhow, Jeffrey lives in Portland, and he drove up to Seattle to do this picture shoot, and that's where the cover comes from.
Great. I love it. I love it. People, wow. People slept on Xerox. Yeah, Leilani. Yeah. You guys.
There's a guy who invented icons. His name is David Smith, and I can put you in touch with him. he's
there you go. You actually meet the person that invented the icons. It's so cool. It's really.
The funny thing is, you invent something like that, or like I actually didn't realize Larry Tesler invented copy paste, but it doesn't really make you a lot of money generally unless you start a company. But and even then, when you're in the commercial end of it, it's more about executing a business plan and having factories and marketing people and salespeople and all that stuff. It's pretty rare that somebody invents something and then commercializes it and makes millions of dollars.
Right.
Once in a while it happens.
Once in a while, yes, of course. But wow. They deserve it, though. You all deserve it. You changed everything. I mean, you changed the whole world. So,
all of you people that are listening, thanks for coming. I appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. And you know where to find the book. It's on Audible, Amazon, and this was super fun. And one of these days, I gotta get up to Palo Alto. We gotta hang out. We should go to a baseball game.
Oh yeah.
We'll
Maybe
go
when
to
the maybe when the Cubs are out here, we'll go.
we should go to a Giants game because it's like the best stadium in baseball.
It is the best stadium in baseball.
The best stadium I've ever been to. Oracle Park is just it's gorgeous.
I was actually at 3Com for a while. It was called 3Com Park.
Right, 3Com Park. Yeah.
We called it Building 11. I think that was our joke.
Yeah, I mean, it's just we got to do that. Yeah.
Okay.
This was a lot of fun. Thank you again, and thanks to everyone that was watching. Oh, hey, thanks, Michelle. Thank you so much. For the old cheesy book club is in the books.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, thanks. We love it. Yeah.
In the books. How does somebody is this? Michelle, how do I join this?
You're in the book. You're in the book club now because this is the first like official time we've done this. So
all right,
we love it.
Right. Well, thanks for organizing this, Mac.
Of course,
and
my pleasure.
Thanks for everybody who showed up. If you all want to ask me anything else, then I think my email address is on the website.
Yeah, and this video will live up on YouTube forever. So for all the people that didn't watch it live, you get to watch it now, and you can always comment below with any other questions. And I'll put the link to the book in the description and everything. So cool.
And if you are at Xerox and you think you're in the book, you're probably not. But I'm never going to admit it anyway. So
that's great. All right. Well, this was great. Thanks, Bob.
All right.
You have a great rest of the night, and we will talk soon. Can't wait for book 2.
All right. Thanks.
Yeah.
Bye.
All right. Bye, everybody. Super fun. Thanks for being here, guys.